this age, where we have every opportunity at our fingertips, why can't we find the strength to get out of bed in the morning? Despite having higher physical comfort, technological means, and speed of access to information than at any other period in history, humanity faces a global epidemic of chronic exhaustion. In this era, where automation has replaced muscle power and digital speed has replaced physical distance, fatigue no longer takes root in the body, but in the depths of the mind. That heavy state of depression that persists even when physical necessities, such as quality sleep, balanced nutrition, and safe shelter, are fully met, is less a biological malfunction and more a psychological cry for help resulting from the corrosive effect of our modern lifestyle on our spiritual structure. At this point, in cases of long-term fatigue, it is a scientific necessity to rule out all medical possibilities, from anemia and vitamin deficiencies to thyroid disorders and chronic infections. However, the fact that all clinical tests come back clean does not mean the fatigue felt is imaginary or insignificant. On the contrary, this proves that the source should be sought not in concrete cells, but in abstract mental processes. The first link in psychological fatigue is the instrumental attitude individuals adopt toward their own existence. Within a performance-oriented neoliberal culture, modern humans have begun to see their bodies merely as machines or hardware that enable them to reach their goals. While many individuals meticulously track the periodic maintenance of the vehicle they purchased, the battery health of their phone, or the lifespan of the appliances in their home, they do not show the same kindness and care to their own biological and spiritual systems. Yet, when the body cannot verbally express the chronic stress and emotional neglect it is exposed to, it uses the language of fatigue to protect itself. In this process, referred to in psychology as somatization, the mind expresses suppressed emotions, responsibilities that cannot be refused, or excessive cognitive overload as physical weight and a drop in energy when it cannot express them directly. The brain pushes the person into a forced pause by spreading the message you cannot go any further to all limbs via the nervous system. To consider this situation with a concrete example, we can imagine a white-collar worker who works 60 hours a week. While their mind constantly says, "You must succeed and you must finish this project," their body sends the message, "You must stop, and you are exceeding your capacity by making it difficult to get out of bed in the morning." When the person suppresses this signal with high doses of caffeine or energy drinks, they are essentially removing the fire alarm in the house and continuing to watch the fire. Because the alarm is silenced, it is assumed the danger has passed, but the structural damage deepens. Viewing fatigue solely as a discipline problem and pushing through it with willpower is akin to forcing a depleted battery until it leaks. Instead, it is much healthier to practice the body scanning technique during the day. By simply closing your eyes for 2 minutes and focusing your attention on the tension in your shoulders, the tightness of your jaw muscles, and the shallowness of your breathing, you can begin to treat your body not as a work machine, but as the only home you live in and which needs protection. By nature, humans are social beings. However, in modern society, the desire for acceptance and approval draws a heavy and multi-layered veil over the true self. Playing the roles of the flawless leader at work who controls everything, the child who never causes problems in the family, and the constantly cheerful and energetic person in social circles leads to massive mental energy consumption in the background. The wider the gap between the true feelings and individual experiences and the mask they project to the outside world, the more cognitive dissonance arises. Carrying this mask without letting it drop keeps the prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive center, in a constant mode of monitoring, censorship, and suppression. This internal censorship mechanism is so exhausting that even while at rest, the individual experiences a state of internal alertness that prevents the muscles from relaxing. This is because, in the eyes of the individual, the dropping of the mask is equivalent to social death. For example, someone who assumes the role of a source of joy and positive energy in social circles, while experiencing a great loss in their own life, feels an unknown sense of burnout when they return home, because the soul can no longer carry the falsehood. To unburden yourself, creating a space where you are completely honest with at least one person or a journal during the day and expressing your emotions without filtering them helps to cool your mental processor. To explain mental fatigue with a metaphor from computer science, a computer's RAM capacity fills up and the system slows down because of windows left open in the background, even if they aren't actively used on the screen. Every unresolved issue in our minds, every postponed difficult confrontation, and every suspended decision is like malware silently siphoning our energy. To manage these burdens, it is vital to divide them into two basic categories. The first category consists of things that cannot be changed, such as irreparable regrets from the past or the unchangeable character traits of others. The resistance of, if only it were different in these areas, is wasted energy, and a radical acceptance approach prevents the mind from spinning its wheels. The second category includes things that can be changed, such as toxic relationships or jobs that do not align with personal values. Not taking action on these traps the mind in a constant cycle of complaining. When an employee internalizes an injustice experienced with a manager for months, they feel intense fatigue every time they go to that workplace. This fatigue is not physical, but the waiting load created by leaving the problem unresolved. One of the most consuming situations for the mind is remaining in the limbo of indecision. Being stuck between two options causes the brain to perform endless risk analyses for both, creating decision fatigue. Every second the brain cannot decide, it continues to process and rapidly depletes its glucose stores. Therefore, it is necessary to set a clear deadline for matters where you remain undecided, and when that date arrives, to choose the good enough option rather than the perfect one and move forward. A mistake in motion is less exhausting than a correctness in a standstill. Instead of dividing your energy equally across every area, identifying the three most critical areas of your life during that period and giving up the effort to be perfect in other areas will silence unnecessary background noise. In conclusion, mental fatigue is not an inescapable destiny of the modern world. It is a reflection of our lifestyle, our ability to set boundaries, and the quality of the relationship we establish with ourselves. For the mind to truly rest, physical sleep is not enough. The mind must be set free. An individual honestly recognizing their own needs, establishing a balance between the noise of societal expectations and their own inner voice, and most importantly, returning to their own reality, is the only way to escape this chronic weight. Remember that the deepest rest occurs not just when the body stops, but in the moments when the mind is at peace with its own reality. The deepest rest is the moment you make peace with yourself. Don't forget to share this video with a loved one you know feels tired